Just don't. Almost. We'll probably. Oh, I gotta the shirt too. What's that? This is weird, bro. Right. I'm looking. Oh, there it is. Remember that wall up there? So you're looking out at people.
Okay, so I think almost everyone's in here. I just want to thank you guys for coming in today. I think we're going to have a really good presentation. So this is the Vindicate Life Project, and Andy and Micah are going to be giving a presentation today. So yeah, just enjoy.
All right, so really quick before I begin, just in case you guys are wondering what that little quiz handout that you guys got was, we're going to do a free giveaway here at the end of the day. We'll email you guys the winner tonight, and this is our shirt that we just released on Wednesday, so please feel free to answer those questions and give it to us at the table after the presentation. One of those questions on there we actually ended up cutting from the presentation because we're trying to downsize the presentation. So the second answer, I'm going to give you guys a freebie, is the fill in the blank is foundation. Just for those of you who are wondering. So today we're going to be answering the question of why pro-life, and what I mean by that specifically is why should we be pro-life, and why really is abortion such an important issue. And before I hop into the content of the presentation, just a little bit about us. So like Maddie said, I'm Andy and this is Micah. We graduated from St. Croix Lutheran, which is a Wells High School just like this one in West St. Paul. We graduated last year and now we're both off to college. I'm at University of St. Thomas and Micah is studying to be a pastor at MLC. So a little bit about Vindicate Life Project. We launched on Mother's Day of 2020, and in simplest terms, what we are a pro-life nonprofit clothing brand. We launched Vindicate Life Project with a trifold mission in mind. For one, we'd create educational posts regarding the humanity of the unborn and information on pro-life apologetics and whatnot, and we post those on our Instagram account, so feel free to check us out on Instagram or Facebook. The second part of our mission is we sell pro-life apparel and merchandise. And then that leads into number 3, which is with all the proceeds, with all the profit that we generate from the sale of our merchandise, we donate it to various pro-life missions. One example is our Christmas fundraiser. We raised $1,500 for a pregnancy care center called New Day Pregnancy Care Center. And basically what a pregnancy care center is it's considered the alternative to an abortion center, the pro-life alternative. They provide all the same services, other than abortion, of course, but for the most part, they provide them free of charge.
So at this point, before we jump into the meat of this topic, I'm going to get us started off with a quick video that was made by an organization called Live Action. This video will take us through the stages of human development in the womb, and I'll elaborate a little bit after, but let's just watch it for now.
This is Olivia. Though she has yet to greet the outside world, she has already completed an amazing journey. This is the moment that life begins. A new human being has come into existence. At fertilization, her gender, ethnicity, hair color, eye color, and countless traits are already determined. She begins to implant in the uterus about 1 week after fertilization. Her cells organize into what we call an embryo. At 3 weeks and 1 day, just 22 days after fertilization, Olivia's heartbeat can be detected. The buds of her arms and legs appear by 4 weeks. She begins to move between 5 and 6 weeks with both spontaneous and reflexive movements. At 6 weeks from fertilization, her brain activity can be recorded and bone formation begins. She can bring her hands together at 7.5 weeks, and separate fingers and toes emerge. She can also begin to hiccup. At the beginning of the 9th week, Olivia will have grown from a single cell into nearly 1 billion cells, and she is now called the fetus. She will suck her thumb and swallow, grasp an object, touch her face, sigh, and stretch. At 11 weeks, she is playing in the womb, moving her body and exploring her environment. Her taste bud cells have matured by week 12, but are still scattered throughout her mouth. Her mother will first sense Olivia's movements between 14 and 18 weeks, an event called quickening. Beginning at 18 weeks, ultrasounds show speaking movements in her voice box. Around 20 weeks, with a lot of help, babies have survived outside the womb. At 27 weeks, her eyes are responding to light. She can recognize her parents' voices and will even recognize lullabies and stories. Olivia has gone on an amazing journey during these last 9 months. She will soon signal to her mother that it is time for delivery and greet the outside world.
So there are really two reasons I wanted to show this video. The first is sort of so we can all get on the same page, because it is fact that human life begins at conception. And the second reason I wanted to show you this is sort of built on top of that, and it's I want to reestablish who exactly we are talking about when we discuss the unborn. We've become used to abortion in this country and in this culture because, well, it's been legal since 1973. Many of us were not alive at that point. And that one decision by the Supreme Court to permit abortions in 1973 has yielded drastic consequences. That video was 3 minutes and 13 seconds long. And in the time that it took us to watch that video, 245 people, just like baby Olivia here, were killed by abortion. That's more than 1 per second. And at such a rapid rate, the total toll is reaching unfathomable magnitude. Since 1973, in the United States alone, there have been 63 million abortions. It's a big number, so I tried to come up with some point of comparison so you can wrap your head around it. And the best I could come up with was I looked at a list of the top most populous United States cities in the United States, and I calculated how many of those cities would have to be completely wiped out to equal 63 million. You ready for how many cities that is? 92. I mean, just picture if New York City alone was completely destroyed. But no, we're looking at 92 cities here over the course of 40 to 50 years, and this trend is consistent worldwide. But also, another way to think of it is for every 5 of your peers sitting out there, 1 is missing. We're talking about a gap in our generation because this has primarily affected Gen Z. We're missing 1/6 of our population because of abortion, and this continues worldwide. Outside of the United States, we are looking at 1,635,000,000 abortions worldwide since 1980. And these sheer numbers alone are one of the many reasons we consider abortion to be such a pressing issue in our country. And I'll, at this point, be passing it off to Andy because he'll take us through some other reasons.
All right, so we are going to be kind of comparing the pro-life movement and the issue of abortion now to other issues and other movements. So that is to answer the question of why should you guys give your time and your effort and your money to the pro-life movement and not some other social movement, right? Why did Micah and I start a pro-life nonprofit and not a nonprofit within some other movement? And the first reason, one of the first things to keep in mind is that when it comes to abortion, life is on the line. And there are a lot of other issues in America and other movements that are addressing other issues that where life is not literally on the line. I was looking up some movements in America, and one of them that came up was the equal pay movement. And right, the equal pay movement, life is not on the line, right? Compensation is. And so that's one key difference to note. There are movements in which life is on the line. There are other movements in which life is on the line, or at least claim to be. I was doing some research on what are the top movements, what are the top social movements, political movements within America right now. And the top one that came up was the environmental movement. And that is, of course, a movement to address climate change and rising pollution and whatnot. And a World Health Organization article claimed that 150,000 deaths happen every year because of climate change. But when you take numbers like that and you compare them to abortion, they really do pale in comparison. And it gives you some perspective as to how big of an issue abortion is. And so the fact that life is on the line can be a really sad and a somber and a scary thing when thinking about abortion. But I've actually realized that in my experience within the pro-life movement, it can also serve as a very unique and motivating opportunity, because two things happen when you immerse yourself, when you get involved with the pro-life movement. A, you will be surrounded by life-saving work, and B, you will be contributing to life-saving work. And Mike and I have seen our fair share of life-saving work already in our few years of operation. But one of these examples that comes to mind is a sidewalk counselor. So this is a picture of a couple sidewalk counselors. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with what a sidewalk counselor does, basically they will post up outside of a abortion facility, such as like a Planned Parenthood, and they will have all sorts of information on them and pamphlets, and they will refer women that come into this abortion facility to a pregnancy care clinic. And they are often referred to, sidewalk counselors are referred to as the last line of defense for these unborn children. And that's sad, but it's very true. These women, these sidewalk counselors are the last people that are going to tell these distressed mothers the truth about their situation and about their child, right? That abortion is not the only option, and that there are so many people that would love to help them. Because once they walk into those doors of that abortion facility, of that Planned Parenthood, it is a business, and they are selling a sale. They're selling a service. And so Mike is going to talk to us a little bit more about the business of abortion here in the next segment.
Yes, I'm going to talk about the fine print, specifically the fine print of an abortion procedure. This is the stuff that they don't want to tell you, because you see, the abortion industry is just that. It's an industry. They want to make money. At the top of this industry is Planned Parenthood, raking in the most revenue yearly. And they have the legal fortune of being recognized as a 501c3 nonprofit. But as such, they are required to have a mission statement, which they have posted for us on their website. And I have a screenshot of it right here. This is their mission statement. You can scan it through. I mean, they want to help people live full, healthy lives. I find that rather ironic. To provide high-quality reproductive health care, advocate public policies, provide medically accurate education, and promote research and technology. There's really no big surprises here, to be honest. But I really want to focus in on this second to last bullet point, to provide medically accurate education. See, I found they do a lot of their education on their YouTube channel, where they post all kinds of informative videos for us to learn from. And since we are talking about abortion, I watched their video about what you can expect from an in-clinic abortion at Planned Parenthood. I'm going to play that video for you here, but before I play it, I'll say I was a little disappointed, to be honest. You know, I'm a firm believer in providing medically accurate education, but in my opinion, they left out a lot of important details. But, you know, I can vouch for Planned Parenthood this one time, because we're not so unalike. We both believe in medically accurate education. So as I play the video, I'll be happy to inform you of the details that they fail to include in the video. So let's get right into it.
In the United States, abortion is a safe and legal way to end a pregnancy.
Okay, stop it right there. We made it 4 seconds in. I would like to just elaborate on this first claim, that abortion is safe. You see, here at Planned Parenthood, we have a bit of a broader definition of what safe means. It's hard for me to define. It's a bit of a working definition, if you will, but as you continue through the video, I think you'll get a better idea for what we mean by safe. So let's keep going.
During an in-clinic abortion, a doctor, nurse, or other healthcare provider empties your uterus using gentle suction and sometimes other medical tools.
Okay, we threw a lot at you in like one sentence. That was about the entire procedure, okay? And the point of that was we wanted to keep the phrasing short and sweet so we can get you accurate information in a short amount of time. But the phrases as a result were kind of general, but let me elaborate, all right? We said empties your uterus, okay. It's accurate, right? But those 3 quick words, they're a lot more sufficient than saying something such as permanently ends the life of the embryo or fetus that is your child. See, that's just too exhaustive. So we just kept it short and simple with empties your uterus. And one other phrase we used was we use gentle suction and sometimes other tools, which, kind of leaves out a lot of things. You might be wondering, what exactly are these tools? Well, that's what I'm here for, to represent Planned Parenthood. So I'm going to take you through their list of tools that you could expect out of any given abortion procedure. So first up is the cannula. This is the source of the gentle suction. It's only about 10 to 20 times more powerful than your household vacuum. But the diameter is about a small coin, and it works like a vacuum. It sucks up the embryo or fetus, bones and all. We use this between the 5th and 13th weeks of pregnancy. Within that time, the child will have, they've long had a heartbeat, they got brain waves, hands, legs, fingers, toes, whatever. The cannula handles all that. But what if we want to perform an abortion before the 5th week of pregnancy? Then we do a similar procedure with this syringe. And it's nice and convenient for us because the child is small and weak enough that we can just use this manual tool instead of the cannula, for example. But sometimes this aspiration procedure doesn't get everything out. There might be parts of the embryo left behind or the placenta. And that's what the curette is for. This has a sharpened loop that we scrape along the uterine wall to clear out leftover parts of the embryo or placenta. And the sharpened edge can be used to also dismember the child wherever necessary to make things easier for the cannula. Next up, if you don't like needles, this might look kind of intimidating, but I'll assure you, you don't have much to worry about because we only use this in the 3rd trimester, okay? This syringe is we use it to inject chemicals into the fetus, which at this point could survive outside the womb. It's almost fully developed. But this syringe injects chemicals that cause the child to go into cardiac arrest. If it survives, then we just give it another dose. And once that child is dead, it would be too much of a hassle to use the cannula and go through a regular procedure. So instead, we have the mother deliver her dead child. Because at Planned Parenthood, we'd much rather deliver a dead child than a living one and keep it alive, give it up for adoption. That's too much of a hassle, right? And we only got 2 more tools left. You can imagine what they do. Forceps. Grip the child wherever necessary, tear it apart, make things easier. And same with the embryotomy. Scissors, cut limbs, cut the neck even. So, I'd say these tools do a pretty good job to ensure the death of the child. But of course, as with any procedure, there are risks for the mother. We didn't really mention them in the video, but that's what I'm here for, all right? So here's the list of the physical risks for a mother. On the, left are the long-term risks, and the right, we have immediate risks. You can scan that list. I would just direct your attention to the last bullet point that says immediate complications. You might be wondering what that means. Well, I have the list here for you of immediate complications. This might entail infection, excessive bleeding, embolism, ripping or perforation of the uterus, anesthesia complications, convulsions, hemorrhage, cervical injury, fever, second-degree burns, chronic abdominal pain, vomiting, gastrointestinal disturbances, and RH sensitization. See, just a handful of things, right? So you really shouldn't have too much to worry about. Those immediate complications only happen to 10% of our patients. So it'll be safe for you if you're one of the other 9. And like 2% of our patients, their immediate complications are considered life-threatening. But I assure you, abortion is very safe for you as long as you're one of the other 49, right? Now, we've only made it a quarter through the video, and for the sake of time, I'm gonna have to cut it short, but I appreciate you having me as your Planned Parenthood representative, but at this point, I'm gonna have to pass it off to Andy.
Okay, so for this next segment, we're going to be taking a little bit of a trip back in history, and we're going to start at the time of the Israelites. There was a god called Molech at the time of the Israelites, And a traditional ceremony to Molech, to worship Molech, it was known for its child sacrifices. And what's so like crazy to me about this is the fact that at one point in human history, this was normal. And this, by at least this society, was deemed okay. It was deemed morally permissible. And you think about what would happen if someone performed this ceremony nowadays in America, right? They would end up in jail. But at one point, this was okay. This was morally permissible. The next stop is going to be that of we're going to go to the Holocaust here, and right, Nazi propaganda swayed and indoctrinated the citizens of Germany to believe that Jews were, for one, they were to blame for the war, but even more so that they were scum, and that they were filth, and that they were just greedy individuals. That's what this propaganda would suggest. But not even that they were greedy individuals. They weren't even individuals at all, they would say. They were subhuman, and they were lacking, they did not deserve to have human rights. And so what happened in result was 6 million Jewish deaths in the Holocaust and 11 million deaths in total. Imagine what would happen nowadays, right? The charge of anti-Semitism is a very heavy accusation. People lose their jobs, people lose relationships or something like that. And once upon a time in German society, it was okay to be a Nazi. Nowadays, right, that is preposterous. Next slide here is we're at slavery now, and this shows you the effects of slavery over the years on this poor fellow's back. At one point in America, slavery was normal. It was normal for people to own people, which is crazy to me to think about, as if they're a piece of property. And nowadays, obviously, that is not the case anymore. But at one point, this was normal behavior. Now let's do abortion. There's a group of people in America today that would claim that they would make signs that say abortion is a human right, and even more so that it's health care. Some would claim, that is to say that killing and dismembering your child is your right, and it should be subsidized by the government. It should be considered health care. What's so mind-boggling to me is I was thinking about what are the vocations of parents, of parenthood, right? There's a lot of vocations of parenthood, but specifically, I'd like to talk about the vocation to protect your child, right? When you think of abortion, is that not the antithesis of fulfilling that vocation to protect your child? Intentionally choosing to kill your child is the exact opposite of fulfilling that. And so I'd like to end with a couple questions here, at least end this segment. How do we think abortion will be remembered? Right? If it's anything like these other human rights abuses that I went through, it's not remembered fondly. It's not remembered in good light. In fact, it's remembered to be something evil. Second question is going to be, how will Planned Parenthood be remembered and other abortion providers? I don't think that Nazi Germany is remembered in the greatest lighting either. I think they are remembered to be quite an evil regime. How will Planned Parenthood be remembered? And lastly, how will those who remained silent in the midst of abortion be remembered? And I bet that a lot of you guys actually probably identify with this. At one point, I feel like I was rather silent when it came to abortion. I wasn't very outspoken about my pro-life beliefs. One way to answer this I found was a really awesome quote by Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who actually was a German Lutheran theologian at the time of the Holocaust, and he ended up dying in a concentration camp. He says, "Silence in the face of evil is itself evil." God will not hold us guiltless. Not to speak is to speak. Not to act is to act. And I think that transitions well into Micah's next segment, a spiritual perspective.
Yeah, with this last point, it will be coming from a spiritual perspective, and as such, I think it vastly overshadows anything we've talked about so far. But I think a lot of it comes down to one question, which I hate to ask, and I know many Christians who have struggled with this question as well. Here it is. What happens to the souls of children who die before they're born? It's a scary question to think about, the possibilities, but it's important for us to remember that it's not our job to judge the answer to this question. That's God's job. We, instead, as humans, are called to do something else. Look at John chapter 15, verse 12. This is our calling. This is Jesus talking. He said, "My command is this: love each other as I have loved you." It's a pretty simple command, but if you want to fulfill it, you must first answer, how has God loved us? Well, what did Jesus do? He went to those in society who were outcast, who were dejected, they felt hopeless or broken. And he came to them with his word and gave them certainty and hope. And in the same way he's come into our lives, he's given us the opportunity to hear his word and to find hope in him. And as such, I think it is our job, because just as God has given us our lives, should we not go forth and work to afford that same gift to others? And as he's given us the opportunity to constantly receive his message and grow in faith, should we not work to share that message, to be a witness to those whose lives have been saved, or to give hope, perhaps to a mother who is struggling with guilt from a past abortion? I want to end with a prayer from Psalm 43. And when I read this prayer, I thought it could really fittingly take the perspective of a child who's been victimized by abortion, or a mother who's struggling with guilt and simply needs hope and reassurance and love. Psalm 43 reads, "Vindicate me, my God, and plead my cause against an unfaithful nation. Rescue me from those who are deceitful and wicked. You are God, my stronghold. Why have you rejected me? Why must I go about mourning, oppressed by the enemy? Send me your light and your faithful care. Let them lead me. Let them bring me to your holy mountain, to the place where you dwell. Then I will go to the altar of God, to God, my joy and my delight. I will praise you with the lyre, O God, my God. Why, my soul, are you downcast? Why so disturbed within me? Put your hope in God, for I will yet praise him, my Savior and my God." Amen.
Sweet. And so we are just about ready to wrap up here. Time is about to expire. Really quick, one last thing, one last thought here. Edmund Burke once said, "The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing." And I really think that applies well to the pro-life movement. It begs the question of, what is it that we should do then? Obviously, don't do nothing, but what is it that we should do then? And so I have a couple, calls to action for you guys that you guys might be interested in. So for one, I'd start by telling you guys to get your ear in the loop. So you can do this by following pro-life pages such as Live Action, or you could follow us, Vindicate Life Project, on social media if you are on social media. And there's also other websites like LifeSite News and whatnot that keep you updated. And it's really important to get your ear in the loop. Number two, pray. I get to tell you guys that as Christians, and that's so great. There's so much power in prayer. And in fact, I would credit a lot of the recent advancements of the pro-life movement to the fact that there are so many people praying for the success of the pro-life movement, and they're really praying for America to respect the dignity of human life. And then lastly, be open. Be openly pro-life. Be vocal about your values. And one way you can do this is to wear pro-life apparel. And that is one of the reasons that we started Vindicate Life Project, to provide pro-life apparel. So those are some things I have for you guys. And then other than that, that's all. Thank you guys for having us. And feel free to turn those slips of paper into the table outside. And we'll email you if you are the winner of the giveaway. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
One last thing before you guys head out. The bell's going to ring in about a minute. I need Caleb Larson, Aiden Hackbarth, and Adam Scriber to come see me over by the Christmas tree before you go. The rest of you are dismissed. They will be collecting your slips on the door on the way out.